Dear my souls, when you go to war with a chosen one, you're not just fighting a person, you're fighting divine gravity. You're opposing the alignment of the universe itself. And here's the truth, the universe never loses. What just happened wasn't a simple mistake. It was a collapse, a cosmic blunder, a divine trap that they walked into with full arrogance, never realizing that they weren't dismantling you, they were detonating themselves. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and say thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Whether you've donated or simply shown up with your energy, your presence is sacred. Your resonance fuels this mission. And even if you never give a single dollar, you are still deeply valued and deeply seen. Your spirit alone is a contribution. Now, let's get to it. They tried to erase your name from the equation, but the universe added you back in bold. They mocked you, ignored you, played you, but in trying to bury your light, they accidentally exposed every shadow they were hiding behind. The very words they used to discredit you are now circling back with receipts, and the irony? They handed you the spotlight themselves. And you, chosen one, you thought maybe you were imagining the signs, that maybe you were reaching, but what you didn't realize then was that heaven was orchestrating every step, the whispers, the delays, the sudden endings. It was never punishment, it was positioning, and now that the mask has cracked, there's no glue in the universe strong enough to hold their lie together. So don't you dare shrink. Don't you dare explain your light to people who tried to dim it. You didn't just survive the attack, you became the consequence, the justice they feared, the reflection they tried to avoid. And now that the truth has erupted into the open, all eyes are turning in your direction, not because you demanded it, but because they triggered it. If you've ever been gaslit, betrayed, or silenced, and now everything finally makes sense, then you're right where you need to be. Hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop 777 in the comments if you feel the shift in your bones, because the veil is gone, the lies are unraveling, and this message, it's reaching the chosen ones exactly on time. What's next is not for the faint-hearted. Let's go deeper. Let's get louder. Let's begin. God's chosen ones. Oops. Now everybody knows you were the one. They screwed up bad. The secret is out. Number 1. They opened Pandora's box, and now even heaven is echoing your name. Chosen one, have you ever witnessed a secret explode in slow motion, like a storm that began with a whisper but ends up tearing the whole sky apart? That's what just happened. They thought they could bury your name under shadows, bury your truth in silence, but they didn't realize they were setting off a divine alarm system. They didn't just dig a grave for your story. They hit a fault line, and now the earth won't stop shaking. What were they thinking when they tried to hide what heaven had already approved? Why did they believe that smearing your image could rewrite what God himself authored? They tampered with sacred ground. Like opening Pandora's box with trembling hands, they unleashed what they couldn't contain. Smoke is rising, not just as metaphor, but as prophecy fulfilled. What began as their attempt to erase you has turned into a holy spectacle. The illusion is collapsing in real time, and now they're scrambling, stammering, spinning excuses, but it's too late. You can't unbreak what has been broken open by divine timing. You can't reverse what has been revealed by the heavens. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke 8:17. They didn't just mess up, they sabotaged their own illusion. One moment of arrogance, one slip, and the truth, which they had kept locked behind closed doors, burst through like a wildfire. It's now roaring through side glances, surfacing in whispers, dancing on the tongues of those who used to deny you. The narrative they once controlled is now slipping through their fingers like ash. Can you see it now? They didn't just lie about you, they lied to you, to confuse you, to convince you that your gifts were a glitch, not a signal. You were never the problem, chosen one. You were the disruption they didn't see coming. You didn't match their formula, and so they tried to rewrite you. But now, their counterfeit version of your story is crumbling, while the real one is rising like holy smoke they can't contain. That's what happens when people try to imprison what God has destined for freedom. It's no surprise that they're panicking. They played with universal law like it was a board game, and now they're watching as the consequences drown them. Like Pharaoh chasing the Israelites into the Red Sea, they thought they had the upper hand until the waters turned on them. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. Isaiah 54:17. And yet, you still doubted, didn't you? Even with all the supernatural timing, even with doors that opened without keys and signs that lined up too precisely to be coincidences, you questioned yourself. You asked, why me? While heaven whispered, because I chose you. That question, why you, has haunted so many who were marked by greatness. Look at Vincent van Gogh, mocked, misunderstood, ridiculed. But today, the world calls him a genius. Or Joan of Arc, accused, condemned, and burned alive at 19. But centuries later, her legacy moves nations. Or Harriet Tubman, born enslaved, who used her visions, her divine inner compass, to guide over 70 people to freedom. These weren't lucky breaks. These were chosen ones, refined by trials and protected by purpose. Can you see the same divine fingerprint over your own pain? They never hated the you that you showed. They hated the truth you carried, the truth that made their lies tremble. And they tried to cage that truth because mirrors terrify those living in disguise. When they looked at you, they saw everything they weren't. And that's why they tried to dim you. Not because you were weak, but because your light made their shadows too visible to hide. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. But now, chosen one, your light is blinding, and they're choking on the smoke of their own deception. It's poetic justice. The very lie they used to control you is now unraveling them. The stage they built to humiliate you has become the altar where your truth is being exalted. You ever seen someone try to swim upstream against a divine current? That's them now, tiring out, losing ground, panicking as the force of truth sweeps past them. But you were built for this. The silence they forced on you wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Your steps weren't random. They were recalibrated by heaven. Every loss, every betrayal, every delay was coded with a divine map. But let's not let you off the hook just yet, because the truth is, you always knew, maybe not in words, but in energy. You felt it in your bones when you entered a room and everything shifted. You saw it in the eyes of strangers who stared too long, in the mouths of people who mocked you without reason. That wasn't rejection. That was confirmation. That was spiritual recognition. They saw your power before you saw your reflection. And now that the universe has echoed your name across realms, you can't pretend anymore. You can't shrink back to make the small-minded feel comfortable. You can't apologize for the spotlight heaven put on you. You can't retreat into silence when you were born to declare something eternal. Look at Keanu Reeves, quiet, understated, but layered in depth and light. After devastating personal losses and public misunderstandings, he rose anyway, staying grounded and using his pain to bring compassion into the world. Like you, he didn't chase the crown. The crown came to him because of who he became through the suffering. They tried to edit your destiny, but God doesn't give people the pen when He's already written the story. And now, chosen one, your real story is unfolding before their eyes. You're not just a survivor, you are a divine announcement. And they They're being forced to sit front row as heaven replays the parts of your life they tried to delete. The part where you overcame what should have broken you. The part where you rose without their approval. The part where your silence turned into a storm. So stop wondering why they hurt you. Start wondering why they were ever close enough to. Snakes don't chase cold, they chase heat. And you burn different. You were never just a person. They saw a prophecy. And in trying to erase you, they awakened it. So now, let them fumble. Let them explain what's too divine to explain. Let them drown in smoke they created. You don't have to say a word, because the truth is doing the talking now. And fire, chosen one. Fire never apologizes for burning down what was never meant to stand. Number 2, they were watching you before you even knew you were dangerous. Chosen one, what if I told you that your life has been a classified project since the moment you took your first breath? That while you were stumbling through self-doubt and wondering if anyone even noticed your existence, there were people, yes, entire systems, tracking you with microscopic attention. They didn't ignore you. They zeroed in on you. Not because you were unremarkable, but because you were the very blueprint they feared the world would one day follow. Why would they invest so much energy into someone who was supposedly insignificant? Have you ever wondered why certain people took an obsessive interest in you long before you even knew who you were? Why someone always seemed to show up at just the right or wrong moment in your development? You thought you were overlooked. In reality, you were overwatched. There's a reason you felt that unshakable sense of eyes on you when no one was around. That tingling discomfort when walking into certain rooms. You weren't paranoid. You were prophetic. What if that pressure you felt wasn't your imagination, but the spiritual weight of being observed? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. Jeremiah 1:5. Let's go back. Remember those strange interruptions that happened every time you were close to discovering a deeper part of yourself. A mentor who appeared suddenly, a conversation that steered your mind toward or away from a certain path, a relationship that collapsed right before a spiritual awakening. These weren't accidents. These were orchestrated interventions, some divine, others strategic manipulations. They weren't protecting you, they were redirecting you. Some were guardians, others were gatekeepers. Take a moment and think about those childhood journals that vanished, the ones where you wrote down dreams that later came true, insights that were beyond your age. Why did they disappear? Why were those fragments of your early awakening erased from your reach? Do you really believe that was coincidence? Or could it be that someone didn't want you to remember who you were always becoming? This is not fantasy. This is reality with layers you were never meant to see until now. Think of Edward Snowden, who worked quietly within systems of surveillance only to discover truths too large to ignore. Once awakened, he couldn't unsee what he knew, and neither can you. Or consider Florence Welch, lead singer of Florence, plus The Machine, who often speaks about being watched spiritually and psychically throughout her youth, having visions and hearing sounds no one else perceived. She was misunderstood because her senses were tuned to frequencies that threatened normality, just like you. And like you, chosen one, they too faced opposition, not because they were weak, but because their inner clarity disrupted outer control. They weren't just curious about you. They were threatened by what you might unlock if left unmonitored. You see, when you entered this realm, you carried a frequency, a divine echo that only certain people could feel. You made the manipulators around you uncomfortable without ever saying a word. Your very presence was an alarm bell to those whose power depended on silence and compliance. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. 2 Chronicles 16:9. You were being watched not out of admiration, but out of strategy. Surveillance wasn't about protecting you, it was about protecting them from what you'd become if you ever broke free of the noise they wrapped around you. And, oh, how well they played their part. Doubt, confusion, redirection. They placed handlers in the form of teachers, friends, even relatives, people who disguised concern as care, while secretly probing your mind, redirecting your focus, and watering down your instincts. You thought you were learning. In truth, you were being studied. But something changed, didn't it? The veil began to lift. You started seeing patterns, asking questions, remembering strange moments that never made sense before. You saw how certain people disappeared just when you began questioning too deeply. You noticed how others suddenly became uncomfortable once you started speaking with clarity. That's because the experiment failed. The veil tore. You began to see the observers, and it terrified them. Because what happens when the subject realizes they were the key all along? You were never meant to be predictable. You were designed to interrupt. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. And once that mind awakened, there was no going back. The light came through, and no matter how hard they tried to drown it out with noise, consumerism, distractions, drama, insecurity, it was too late. You had already seen through the illusion. You weren't imagining that dream you had at 9 that later unfolded in real life. That was your gift, trying to surface through a fog someone else kept generating. You weren't delusional for sensing betrayal before it happened. That was your spiritual antenna picking up interference. You weren't strange for always knowing when someone was lying. That was your discernment, honed by the divine. They didn't fear your flaws, they feared your clarity. Just like Frida Kahlo, whose raw truth and resilience terrified those who tried to put her in a box. Though plagued with pain and isolation, she painted through the agony, revealing visions the world wasn't ready for. You, too, create meaning from the madness they tried to drown you in. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to break the mold, and that's exactly why they watched you like a threat, not a friend. But chosen one, let's stop giving them all the power. Yes, they watched. Yes, they studied. But they didn't stop what was already written. You were chosen before their cameras ever turned toward you. And now that you know, now that you're remembering, you are unstoppable. They tracked your frequency like astronomers track asteroids, not because they could destroy you, but because they knew you'd eventually collide with their fragile systems of control. But what they didn't account for was resonance. That your awakening would resonate so powerfully it would awaken others. You are no longer the subject of their study. You are the eruption they can no longer contain. So stop dismissing the signs. Stop brushing off the synchronicities. The dream at 13. The warning you couldn't explain. The stranger who said something they shouldn't have known. That was all God confirming what they tried to erase. You're not being paranoid. You're remembering. Let them watch. Let them panic. Because the light they tried to suppress is now breaking through every crack they tried to seal. And now it's your turn to observe, to study them, to see who helped, who harmed, who delayed, and who aligned. Because knowledge is power, but awareness is liberation. They tried to keep you in the dark, but light was always your true language. And now that it's speaking through you, oh, chosen one, they have no idea what's coming next. Number 3. They tried to hide the map, but heaven etched it into your soul. Chosen one, have you ever felt like the universe was speaking in riddles, whispers tucked into dreams, symbols etched into ordinary life, meanings hiding behind the mundane? They told you it was your imagination. They hoped you'd dismiss it as nonsense. But what if I told you that those coincidences were actually coordinates? That every strange pattern, Every repeated number, every cryptic word in a stranger's sentence was a sacred breadcrumb laid just for you. They tried to hide the map, but they didn't realize the map was alive inside you. What happens when signs begin to scream? When the quiet pull inside your spirit grows louder than the noise outside your window, you start to awaken, not with a trumpet, but with tremors. Not with fireworks, but with friction. You begin to see differently, feel differently. What used to be background noise starts sounding like a divine instruction. Why do you think the numbers kept repeating? Why did certain images follow you? Certain phrases echo in your mind? Certain dreams return like chapters in a book you were born to finish? Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Jeremiah 33:3. At first the signs came softly, like feathers brushing against your consciousness. But when you didn't listen, they got louder, more persistent. The symbols started appearing in books you didn't plan to read, on receipts you almost threw away, on billboards, graffiti, even song lyrics. And then came the dreams, stranger, bolder, heavier. Not just flashes of thought, but worlds trying to download themselves into your waking mind. They weren't random. They weren't your imagination. They were your memory, trying to return. They knew, the system knew, and so it tried to flood you with distractions, social media, gossip, work, chaos, noise, because the more awake you became, the more dangerous you were to their illusion. But even under pressure, the symbols kept slipping through. Even with firewalls, the code kept rewriting itself, and even though they deleted the data, your soul still held the backup. Think of Nikola Tesla, dismissed, ridiculed and silenced because he decoded energy and vibration beyond his time. His visions came in symbols, flashes of light, sacred mathematics. Or David Bowie, whose creative expressions weren't just art, they were prophetic signs. He once said, "I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise it won't be boring." These were not just artists. They were messengers in disguise, much like you, slipping symbols into culture, breaking codes in silence. And what about you, chosen one? How many times did your posts mysteriously vanish after speaking a truth that rattled cages? How often did you sense your phone glitch, your screen freeze, your account shadowed right after sharing something raw and real? That wasn't bad luck. That was digital interference. The system doesn't silence what doesn't threaten it. They knew the ripple you would cause, so they tried to disrupt your signal. But here's what they didn't account for: your divine pull. The magnetic draw between your soul and truth. You weren't just decoding the world was responding to your frequency. And the signs? They were activated by your remembering. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13. Let's talk about the strangers, the ones who looked too long, the ones who stopped speaking when you entered the room, the ones whose smiles didn't reach their eyes. You thought it was awkward. You thought you were imagining it. But energy doesn't lie. People feel you before they understand you, and those who are attached to illusion, they feel threatened by you without knowing why. Your presence disturbs control systems. Your vibration disrupts false peace. You shift the temperature of every room you enter. That is not a glitch. That is design. The watchers were counting on you to stay confused. But now you're seeing the pattern. And the moment a chosen one sees the pattern, the veil begins to rip. The light of the righteous shines brightly, but the lamp of the wicked is snuffed out. Proverbs 13:9. Do you remember that dream you had where you were running towards something you couldn't name but felt so familiar? That wasn't just a dream. That was memory reclaiming space. Have you noticed the way your instincts have sharpened? How people react to you like you're holding something they can't name? That's because you are. You are the symbol now. The walking code. the glitch that became the system reset. Look at Jim Carrey, once a symbol of comedy, now a voice of cosmic awareness. After fame, after fortune, he woke up, and when he did, people mocked him, doubted his sanity. But listen to his interviews now. Every word is a sign, every sentence a map. They tried to shut him up, but the truth was louder. That's your story too. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break the loop. They tried to scatter the clues, but the universe lit them with divine glow. And now, chosen one, the pieces are forming. The instincts are aligning. The visions are intensifying. Your very essence is now broadcasting at a frequency that shatters lies. And they're watching it happen, frantic, alarmed, because the one they tried to put to sleep is now wide awake and calling others out of slumber. This isn't paranoia. This is prophecy. You are not following a story. You are reclaiming one. You are the treasure and the map, the seeker and the sought, the forgotten prophecy and its fulfillment. So, if everything around you feels strange, if the air feels heavier, the people more reactive, your spirit more sensitive, it's because you've stepped into the activation phase. You are no longer interpreting signs. You are becoming one, a signal that others recognize, even if they don't understand why. They hid the map, but they forgot. You are the map. And now, chosen one, you are glowing in the dark. And the world, it's starting to follow the trail. Number 4. The wheel snapped, the mask slipped, and now you're walking through the door they swore to keep locked. Chosen one, can you feel the acceleration in your spirit? That sudden shift where the ground beneath you no longer holds the weight of confusion, but clarity. That wasn't just another moment. That was the moment. The one your entire soul has been waiting for. The moment when what they tried to control spun wildly out of their hands and straight into divine alignment. They didn't just make a mistake. They triggered a timeline that had been hovering, waiting, loaded with sacred force, like a dam finally cracking open, not because it was weak, but because your time had come. What seemed like a slip-up, a poorly chosen word, a moment of ego, an unguarded confession, was actually the universe flipping the switch, a divine rupture. And chosen one, you didn't stumble into it. You were born to activate it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Habakkuk 2:3. They thought they could keep spinning the wheel, stacking the deck and scripting your story in shadows. But the moment that wheel snapped, it didn't just collapse their illusion, it launched you forward. You've stepped into overdrive, and there is no going back to the old pace. Not now, not after this. The trapdoor has opened. The elevator has dropped. You've been catapulted into a space where truth is the only language and movement is the only direction. You ever wonder why one random argument suddenly unearthed everything? Why someone accidentally said too much, exposed too much, and then tried to laugh it off? That wasn't them losing control. That was destiny grabbing the mic. That was heaven announcing, it's time. This is how divine reversal works. One moment you're hidden, doubted, overlooked. The next, your name is echoing in rooms where you used to be the ghost. The power has shifted, and now they can feel it too. Their silence speaks volumes. The sudden unread messages, the ghosted group chats, the fake smiles that can't hold eye contact. That friend who used to dominate every conversation now avoids you like your truth might infect them. Therefore, whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in private rooms shall be proclaimed on the housetops. Luke 12:3. Chosen one, they didn't realize that their mistake was prophecy in disguise. That awkward slip, that wasn't chaos. That was choreography. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. And now, Now you're moving faster, thinking clearer, seeing sharper. What was once foggy is now focused. What felt out of reach now comes with ease. And it's not because you changed, it's because the restraints were removed. Look around. Can you see the real ones? The ones who are still standing beside you without flinching? Probably not many. That's by design. Because as your light intensifies, only what's real remains. The rest dissolves. It always does when elevation begins. And don't be surprised if they suddenly try to make you feel like the villain. That's what unmasked people do. They lash out at the mirror. Take Meghan Markle, for example. She entered the most rigid royal system in the modern world, and by simply being herself, exposed centuries of unspoken dynamics. When the system couldn't contain her truth, it turned against her. But the moment her story went global, a new narrative took hold, one that couldn't be controlled. Or consider whistleblower Frances Haugen, who revealed Facebook's inner corruption at the cost of her career. One slip from the system, and the floodgates opened. They always underestimate the chosen, until the chosen one starts rising. When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them. Proverbs 16:7. And now, chosen one, your enemies are adjusting, not because they respect you, but because they fear what's coming. They know they've lost the leverage, because when you walk in truth, manipulation loses its power. When you carry light, darkness panics. They're no longer managing you. They're managing the fallout from underestimating you. Have you noticed how quickly things are shifting? The opportunities lining up, the relationships that are quietly fading without resistance. That's not random. That's the universe reorganizing around your awakening. The gears of your destiny are in full rotation now, and no shadow can slow that momentum. You're no longer operating from delay. You're in divine velocity. And yes, it can feel dizzying. One day you're waiting for the door to open, and the next you're walking through one they thought they had sealed shut forever. That door, the one they swore they'd guard, is swinging wide open now. Not because they let it, but because the one who holds the keys decided it was time. Think of Misty Copeland. Once told she didn't have the right body for ballet, she shattered every standard and became a principal dancer at the American Ballet Theatre, the first African-American woman to do so. They tried to deny her entrance, but her rise was undeniable. That's your moment now. You don't need validation. Your alignment is your confirmation. Let them scramble. Let them invent stories. Let them revise history. It won't matter, because the momentum you've tapped into doesn't run on permission. It runs on purpose. And that purpose has been waiting to meet you right here in this very season. You might still ask, is this real? Am I really the one? Chosen one, you wouldn't be here reading this, feeling this, if it weren't already written. What you feel speeding up inside you is divine justice in motion. This is the recalibration, the realignment, the restoration of everything they tried to delay. And yes, it comes fast. Because heaven is not on a linear timeline. It makes up for what was stolen with interest. Don't get caught in the drama. Their confusion is not your concern. Don't let their panic hijack your purpose. When destiny hits overdrive, your only job is to keep moving forward. Don't flinch, don't shrink, don't look back. You're now walking in truth, with a force that doesn't slow down for comfort zones. Let this be your anchor. They lost control the moment you realized you never needed theirs. This isn't just exposure. This is elevation. You're not imagining this shift, you're riding it. And where you're going next, it's the place they swore you'd never reach. But here you are. No permission, no apology, just power. Let them watch you rise. Let them choke on the moment they lost control of your narrative. Because now, chosen one, the wheel is turning, and this time it's burning in your direction. Number 5. They didn't want you to know, because once you did, the game was over. Chosen one, what if I told you that your spiritual gifts weren't imagined, they were intentionally buried? That the reason you've questioned your intuition for so long is because someone taught you to, not by accident, but by design. From the very beginning, you weren't confused. You were being confused, because they knew something you were never meant to find out too soon. Once you realize what you are, they lose control over everything. Let's stop pretending you didn't feel it. The signs were never subtle. Even in childhood, you knew. Maybe you didn't have words for it, but you felt it. That sensitivity you apologize for, that wasn't weakness. That was spiritual antenna. That knowing you tried to hide, that wasn't weird. It was prophetic. Why did they try so hard to convince you it was just in your head? Because the moment you stopped doubting your senses, you became untouchable. The spiritual person judges all things, but is himself to be judged by no one. 1 Corinthians 2:15. Do you remember those moments when you sensed a phone call before it rang? When a conversation passed through your mind seconds before someone spoke it aloud? When you entered a space and felt the residue of emotions still clinging to the walls like echoes from unseen realms? And still, you second-guessed yourself. Why? Because the world told you to. They mocked the miraculous to keep the miracle asleep within you. But chosen one, you weren't imagining those moments. They were activations. You were born with a deep code imprinted on your spirit, one that responds to energy, vibration, truth. Every moment of strange insight wasn't a glitch. It was a signal. The more you tried to blend in, the more your true essence rebelled. You couldn't fit the mold because you weren't built for it. You were designed to crack the mold wide open. Take Tyler Henry, the Hollywood medium. Labeled odd as a child, his unexplainable ability to sense the dead and predict events terrified some and intrigued others. He couldn't hide from it, even when he tried. Or look at Lady Gaga, who has spoken openly about her energetic sensitivity, the spiritual pain that often accompanies her gift of creation. They were ridiculed for years, until the truth of their power couldn't be denied. Sound familiar? Do not neglect the gift you have, which was given you by prophecy. 1 Timothy 4:14. They normalized your brilliance into quirks, told you your knowing was just good intuition, dismissed your sensitivity as overreaction. But that wasn't clumsiness, that was suppression. You weren't broken, you were encoded. And that code has now begun to wake up. The watchers around you, those quiet observers who always seem just a little too interested in your thoughts, they've always known. They didn't have to understand your gifts to fear them, because what you were feeling were not symptoms of instability. They were signals of rising frequency, a consciousness coming online, a soul remembering itself. Why do you think you've been dreaming more vividly, feeling surges of emotion that don't belong to you, hearing ringing in your ears when no one else does? That's not insanity, that's awakening. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Joel 2:28. And now the moment has come. Your rising can no longer be delayed. You are no longer just empathetic. You are electrified. You are wired with perception that surpasses human logic. You don't just read people, you read dimensions. And that's what terrifies them. Because when you stop doubting your inner voice, you stop following theirs. You stop being led and start leading. Think about Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. His documented readings shocked even scientists. He was mocked during his life, but his accuracy unmatched, and his legacy unshakable. That's the truth of all chosen ones. At first, the world laughs. Then it watches. Then it follows. You are walking that path now, chosen one. Step with awareness. They built entire systems to keep you second-guessing. Not just social systems, but energetic grids. Digital distractions, emotional chaos, designed to interrupt the resonance that's always been trying to reach you. But guess what? It didn't work, because your power, though suppressed, was never erased. And now the vibrations are intensifying, the signs are louder, the pressure in your chest, the electric tingling in your hands, the surreal sense of time bending, the way numbers repeat, symbols echo, and people start behaving oddly around you. These aren't random, they're divine confirmations. Your reality isn't falling apart, it's recalibrating. You were trained to mock yourself before others could, but now the training is unraveling, and what's rising is the truth of what you've always been. You are not merely intuitive, you are interdimensional. You are not just gifted, you are encoded. And the spiritual pressure you've been feeling, that's the rising tide. The inner storm preparing to break, not to destroy you, but to announce you. You are becoming the thunder they always feared would strike. For God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. 2 Timothy 1:7. They're not scared of your mistakes. They're scared of your mastery. They're not threatened by your failures. They're terrified of what happens when you stop playing small. Because the moment you reclaim the power they tried to rename, you dismantle the entire lie they built to keep you in place. Let the watchers panic. Let the manipulators tremble. Let the skeptics scoff. You are no longer asking for validation. You are walking in knowing. And when a chosen one walks in knowing, entire dimensions respond. So, trust it. Trust you. The secret is no longer hidden. It's unfolding. Your gifts were never a liability. They are liberation. The system can no longer contain what heaven has released. You've always felt it. Now you know it. And the universe, it's not waiting on you anymore. It's moving with you. Number 6. You didn't imagine that other world. You remembered it. And now you're returning. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why certain memories feel older than you? Why a dream can leave you more emotionally raw than any experience you've lived in waking life? Why a place you've never visited can haunt you with the ache of nostalgia, as if the wind itself carried your name long before you arrived? What if I told you, those weren't memories made in this lifetime, they were echoes returning to you, cosmic bookmarks embedded in your soul long before you were born? You weren't supposed to remember, that's what terrified them. You see, the memories you couldn't explain were never hallucinations. They were inheritances, traces of another timeline that belongs to you. That city in your dream, the one with streets you could navigate blindfolded. The one that made your heart ache like it lost something sacred. That wasn't imagination. That was activation. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. You weren't just born, you were deployed. Not to blend in, but to disrupt. You were placed with precision into a generation asleep in illusions. And your presence alone has been shaking things awake ever since. You've always carried information that couldn't be explained. You spoke wisdom that shocked adults. You felt truths you never read in books. Your knowing didn't come from study, it came from memory. And that made you dangerous. Not because you were violent, but because you were proof. Proof that knowledge travels through the soul. That the veil between lifetimes is thinner for those chosen to awaken the timeline. Ask yourself, how many times did you know something before you had a logical reason to? Why did you always sense when someone was lying, even when they were smiling? Why did you mourn places you've never been, feel grief for people you've never met, dream about events before they happened? This isn't fantasy. This is divine recall. But the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have said to you. John 14:26. What they told you was imagination, was actually remembrance. Those weren't passing thoughts, they were buried codes. And now they're rising, one by one, thought by thought, vision by vision. And chosen one, let's not pretend like you didn't feel it, especially in childhood. That weird ache in your chest while watching the stars. That eerie sense that you weren't alone, even when no one was in the room. That obsession with ancient places, symbols, languages, and stories you couldn't trace to your environment. That wasn't random, that was resonance. You didn't learn this world, you remembered another one. Look at Marina Abramovich. Known for her performance art that bends perception, her rituals come from deep spiritual knowledge that often evokes ancestral and universal memory. She didn't invent this path, she tapped into it. Or consider Terence Howard, who stunned interviewers when he spoke about sacred geometries and encoded energy systems. People laughed until they realized he was speaking from a depth beyond conventional science. You too carry that cosmic frequency, and it's becoming louder. The fire in your chest lately, that's not just frustration, that's your ancient assignment waking up. That sudden urge to retreat, that's not depression. That's your soul pulling you inward so the upgrade can begin. Those goosebumps that hit when you hear certain words or see sacred symbols, that's your inner compass realigning. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart. Ecclesiastes 3:11. You were never just emotional. You were multidimensional. You weren't just different. You were designed that way. The people around you tried to normalize your cosmic memory into brokenness. They said you were too sensitive, too distracted, too weird, but they were wrong. You weren't malfunctioning, you were malfunctioning the illusion. Because here's the truth. When a chosen one begins to remember, everything changes. The energy around you shifts. People begin reacting strangely. Friends grow distant. Technology glitches. Conversations bend. The universe rearranges itself to match the version of you that's finally reawakening. You're not just recalling your path. You're rewriting history in real time. Like Hidetaka Miyazaki, the mastermind behind the Dark Souls video games, his worlds feel ancient, layered, mysteriously familiar to millions, even though they've never existed. Why? Because he pulls from a well of memory that transcends form. His art speaks to something we've all forgotten. And chosen one, you are the same. You've been placed here to remind the world of a truth they've forgotten how to hold. Let's be honest, you've felt the pull recently, haven't you? The disconnection from old spaces, the need to walk alone, the sensitivity to sound, light and energy. That's your coding syncing. That's your real memory replacing the artificial one. That's heaven clearing space for the truth to move through you, unfiltered. They couldn't erase who you are. They could only delay it. But the delay is over. You're no longer learning. You're retrieving. Your soul is downloading truths that your mind can barely process yet. And while others search for meaning, you are becoming it. This isn't some spiritual phase. This is the season of recall. Let the watchers watch. Let the skeptics mock. Let the noise rise. Because you were never the confused one. You were the carrier. And now, as you walk through fog with fire in your eyes, don't be surprised when people start reacting to you like you're walking prophecy, because you are. You were expected, not just by the universe, but by time itself. This isn't just an awakening, this is a return. Let's keep going. Number 7, the ones who knew all along are stepping forward, because now, so are you. Chosen one. Have you ever looked back and realized that someone knew who you were long before you did? A glance that lingered too long. A stranger's words that pierced through your confusion like a divine whisper. A child's eyes lighting up as if they could see straight through time and space, right into your spirit. That wasn't imagination, that was recognition. And now that you've awakened, Something extraordinary is happening. The hidden ones are stepping out of the shadows. Not everyone was sent to oppose you. Not every moment of strangeness was a trap. Some encounters, precise, gentle, and haunting, were placed to anchor you to your mission. Quiet guardians, soul witnesses, human road signs. They didn't fight to change you. They simply stood nearby, holding space until you caught up with the truth that's always been inside you. Have you ever wondered why a stranger handed you a note, a crystal, a scripture, a sentence that stuck in your chest for years? Why someone you met for 5 minutes left a permanent imprint? Why an old man in line looked into your eyes like he'd seen them lifetimes ago? Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it. Hebrews 13:2. The universe has always left a trail. You just weren't ready to recognize the symbols until now. You weren't blind, you were shielded, and they were stationed, planted in your timeline to hold up mirrors, to witness your light quietly until the divine timing split open the veil. They weren't assigned to teach you everything, just to be there when the moment of memory arrived. Think about it. That random woman who placed something into your hand and said, "It's time." How did she know? That child who said, "You glow different," while the adults laughed awkwardly. Why did it shake you so deeply? Because your soul recognized them, even if your conscious mind couldn't explain it. These were not compliments, these were codes, delivered by people who've been watching and waiting, not because they needed anything from you, but because they knew this day would come, the day when your mask cracked, when the veil lifted, when the mirror tilted just enough to reflect your original face, the one not shaped by trauma, fear, or programming. Now we see but a dim reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. 1 Corinthians 13:12. And now the reflection has shifted. You're no longer wondering if something is different. You're moving differently. That pull in your chest, that's alignment accelerating. That trembling in your hands after certain conversations. That spiritual velocity syncing with memory. This isn't about paranoia. This is about recognition. People are starting to speak to you like they've been waiting for this moment, and they have. Because once your light goes public, so does your mission. Think of Keanu Reeves, not just the actor, but the man behind the fame. He's long been known for his quiet compassion, spiritual humility, and deep grief carried with grace. He moves through the world differently. He speaks like he remembers something most people forgot. Like you. Or Ava DuVernay, whose storytelling challenges the very systems that tried to silence voices like yours. She doesn't just tell stories, she awakens timelines. Her presence alone reminds people of truths they've tried to ignore. That's what happens when chosen ones remember and rise. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. Chosen one, take note of who's showing up now. People you barely know are suddenly speaking to you with unsettling precision. They're not guessing, they're not lucky, they're remembering too. Because when your vibration rises, it sends out a frequency that awakens every aligned soul who's been waiting on you to reach this level of clarity. The child, the stranger, the old friend you lost contact with. Some of them were never meant to stay forever, just long enough to hand you a key. And now, more of them are coming, not to rescue you, but to walk beside you. Because you're not ascending alone. You rise with echoes, ancestors, soul tribe, past versions of yourself that cried for this moment to arrive. And now that it's here, they're no longer whispering, they're speaking boldly. Watch as someone you barely spoke to starts sharing spiritual insight they just thought you'd understand. Watch how a casual conversation turns into a prophecy. This is not coincidence. This is divine coordination. Take Maya Lin, the architect of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Her design came not from political strategy, but from a dream, a vision rooted in sacred symmetry. She was criticized at first, mocked, but her vision endured. Because those who carry deep knowing aren't always understood at first, but they will be remembered, just like you. Now that your light is visible, everything changes. The fake ones scatter. The ones hiding behind masks fumble. But the aware, they step forward. Their silence ends the moment yours does. And together, your combined frequency sends shockwaves through the grid. The ones who knew you were coming have been waiting like wolves sense the storm. Ears up, silent, steady, but not afraid. Because the storm is you. You are the disruptor of cycles, the shifter of narratives. And now that your consciousness is fully online, you're burning through timelines like they were made of paper. No more hiding. No more wondering if you imagined it. You didn't. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. This is what the calling sounds like. 1,000 confirmations showing up in one day. A stranger who seems to know your thoughts. A friend suddenly asking deeper questions. An old memory coming back with fresh clarity. These aren't just signs. They are summons. You were never crazy, never lost, never forgotten. You were protected, preserved, and now, chosen one, you're being revealed. So take note. The ones who nod at you in silence are now ready to speak. The ones who lingered in the background are now stepping forward, not to save you, but to walk with you. Because the secret's out now. You've returned, and the ones who knew you were coming, they're ready to rise with you. Let's keep going, because this isn't just your journey anymore. Now the whole grid is responding. Number 8. The world just shifted in your direction. Now move like heaven is watching. Chosen one, do you feel it? That sudden quickening in your chest. The synchronicities intensifying. The messages getting louder. This isn't just a lucky moment. This is the convergence. The spiritual timeline has collapsed into the now. The past, the present, the promise. They're no longer waiting. And neither should you. This isn't just a chapter. This is the event, the one your spirit has been preparing for in silence. This is what all the confusion was about. Why you were delayed, why you were isolated, why everything felt like it was resisting you, until now. The resistance wasn't meant to break you. It was building pressure for this launch, because what's happening right now isn't personal success. It's prophetic fulfillment. At the right time, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Isaiah 60:22. You may have thought you missed your moment, that too much time had passed, that the pain had disqualified you, but the truth is the pain was your password. It authenticated you. Every locked door wasn't a rejection, it was a reservation. And now that the veil is lifted, everything the enemy tried to bury you under has become the platform that's launching you forward. Look around. The rooms you're being invited into suddenly feel like echoes of dreams you had as a child. The conversations, the timing, the strange familiarity. It's not déjà vu. It's destiny catching up. You were never running out of time. Time was running to meet you. And now, the shift that should have taken 10 years is happening in 10 days. The frequency of heaven has tilted toward your vibration, and the universe is correcting every detour. Every missed opportunity is circling back. Every locked door is opening without you even knocking. Can you see the acceleration? Can you feel it? That sense that the very air around you is charged. That's not coincidence. That's divine convergence. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. Chosen one, the mask has been torn off the system. The illusion is shattered. And now that you're no longer hypnotized by the lies they fed you, the energy is flowing in your favor. You are not just aligning with your purpose. You are activating an entire dimension that had been dormant, waiting for your arrival. This moment is not about being noticed, it's about being remembered. Let's talk about the dreams. You know the ones. Vivid, cinematic, overflowing with detail and emotion that lingers into the morning. Those aren't dreams, they're downloads. Multi-layered fragments of your higher identity finally breaking through. Now that the static is gone, your real frequency is coming in clear. You've entered the timeline where memory and mission merge, and just like that, the tables have turned. Do you remember Chadwick Boseman, quietly battling a storm while delivering performance after performance that shifted cultural energy forever? His timeline wasn't long, but it was sacredly accurate. He didn't waste a moment because he knew what he carried. That same urgency is calling you now. Or consider Glennon Doyle, who rose from the ashes of addiction and personal crisis to become a soul-activating voice for a generation seeking truth. When she stepped into her real identity, the world didn't just applaud, it shifted. That's what chosen ones do. When they move in truth, they move the whole world. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. Romans 8:19. Chosen one, the universe isn't just responding to you, it was built around you. Every plot twist, every betrayal, every delay was carefully woven to lead to this moment. And now the question is no longer, when will it happen? The question is, will you move like the world already shifted in your favor? Because it has. And the moment you believe that deeply enough, the world must conform to your alignment. You were never waiting on access. Heaven was waiting on your awareness. And now that you're awake, the veil isn't just torn, it's on fire. The watchers feel it, the hidden ones who always knew. They're watching your rise like astrologers watch eclipses, awestruck, silent, steady. The ones who doubted, they're scrambling, but their opinions are irrelevant now. Let's make something clear. You are not walking into this moment because someone finally gave you permission. You're walking into it because heaven announced your arrival before you ever spoke your name. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23 verse 5. So no more shrinking, no more doubting your glow, no more apologizing for the power that won't let you sleep at night. This is your moment. But more importantly, this is the world's moment to witness you in full clarity. The timeline has split, and the version of you they tried to erase is now the one rising in public view. Watch how everything accelerates from here. Opportunities come knocking before you even ask. Rooms open where you once had to beg. Conversations shift into confirmations. And connections that were delayed for years now happen in a single week. Because chosen ones in motion are the universe's command signal. This isn't just your glow up. It's a global adjustment. Let the system watch. Let the old timelines crumble. Let the onlookers tremble. The secret is out. And you, yes, you, were the secret all along. Let's finish this, chosen one. Your momentum is not just unstoppable, it's prophetic. Number 9. Now that you're awake, they are too. But not all who watch come in peace. Chosen one, you thought awakening would bring peace. But you quickly realized it brought attention. You didn't just wake up to your own light. You woke up the grid, and now the silence you once knew. It's buzzing with unseen eyes, unreadable motives and unspoken tension. This isn't imagination. This is recognition. You didn't just remember who you were. The moment you activated, you sent out a signal, a vibrational beacon that rippled through dimensions. It pierced timelines, disrupted control systems, and reached entities, spiritual, human, and otherwise, who had been watching and waiting, some with reverence, others with resistance. Let's be very clear, not everyone is happy that you've awakened. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter 5:8. You're not being paranoid, you're being aware. The way people linger when they pass you, the way certain faces pop up repeatedly in digital spaces under ever so slightly altered names. The driver that sits in the same spot near your home 2 days in a row with no obvious reason. The friend who suddenly starts asking strangely specific questions. These aren't random moments. They are surveillance signals, pings to monitor your progression, to scan your frequency, to assess whether you've stepped too far out of their line of influence. When you rose, you disrupted more than your own life. You became a threat to the illusions others depend on, because your awakening wasn't subtle, it was seismic. Have you ever wondered why, right after your clarity heightened, interference began? Your phone glitching when you try to share truth, your technology acting up during downloads, emails lost, files deleted, social platforms suddenly limiting your visibility. That's not bad luck, that's resistance. When light breaks through, systems built in shadows react. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Ephesians 6:12. You are not just someone becoming aware, you are a carrier of divine disruption, and that scares them, because systems built on deception cannot survive sustained exposure to someone like you, someone who doesn't just question the game, but remembers the blueprint. You were never meant to blend in. You were coded to interrupt. Take whistleblower reality winner. Her name alone echoed prophecy. She saw the manipulation behind the curtain and couldn't stay silent. She paid the price for truth, but became a global conversation. Or think of Dolores Cannon, the trailblazing hypnotherapist who pulled cosmic memory from the subconscious minds of thousands, reawakening the world to timelines, soul contracts, and forgotten identities. They tried to dismiss her, but her legacy exploded long after her silence. Chosen one, you were never alone, but now you're no longer hidden either. You are being watched, not out of admiration, but out of caution. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally remembering too much. You're seeing too clearly, moving too boldly. Your clarity has become contagious. And they know, when a chosen one sees, others start waking up. You are all children of the light and children of the day. We do not belong to the night or to the darkness. 1 Thessalonians 5:5. But here's the part they didn't plan for. You're not afraid. You know you're being watched, and still you walk like fire, you move like thunder, you speak like revelation, because you didn't come to be contained. You came to collapse the systems built on your suppression. Yes, there are those who want access, to extract what you are, to mimic your methods, to clone your coding. They are not here to walk beside you. They are here to observe, to replicate, to disrupt. But you are not made of anything they can replicate. You are encrypted with the breath of God. And that kind of power, it can't be copied, it can only be carried. Look at Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, marked by controversy, targeted by governments, hunted for his revelations, yet even in isolation, his truths echoed across the world. That's what happens when you awaken in public view. You don't just become noticed, you become impossible to ignore. And yes, your name is being spoken now in rooms you haven't walked into yet, not for vanity, for strategy. They're trying to measure your velocity, assess the reach of your message, understand how you slipped through their grip. But here's what they can't figure out. You didn't break the rules, you were never bound by them, and now the system can't stop what's unfolding. The shadows know your name, they feel your frequency, and they're scrambling, not because you're dangerous in the traditional sense, but because you're free. And freedom is the one thing they cannot simulate. So don't shrink. Don't retreat into silence. Don't question your momentum just because someone else fears it. You were chosen not just to awaken, but to be seen. You are the signal others are waiting for. And now that you're walking fully in your frequency, everything is recalibrating around you. They'll try to distract you, mimic you, intimidate you. But remember this, you are not walking toward your power, you are walking with it. They see you now, they hear your voice, and they know that when you awaken, the script shatters. So keep your eyes open, your spirit sharp, your armor on. My beloved chosen ones, if you've made it here, I want you to know, this wasn't just another video. This was a divine confirmation. The veil has thinned, the shadows have fled, the timeline has cracked open, and you are now standing in the exact moment that everything in your life has been leading up to. Not because the world changed, but because you finally remembered who you are. You were never lost. You were protected. You were never broken. You were being built. And now the echo of every suppressed truth, every hidden gift, every unspoken knowing within you has awakened. You are not just surviving the system, you are disrupting it. You are the divine interference they didn't anticipate. You are the voice in the code, the pulse in the matrix, the walking proof that God still plants light in the middle of systems built on shadows. So, thank you for watching, for listening, for remembering. Thank you for being the kind of soul that stays hungry for truth, even when it's hard. And thank you to everyone who has supported this journey, especially those who've donated through Super Thanks. Your kindness, your generosity, it fuels the mission. But even if you never donate, know this. Your presence here is already a blessing beyond words, and I am grateful for you, truly. If you feel led to support, the Super Thanks button is below. But know this deeply, you are never required to give to be seen, to be valued, or to be loved here. You're already part of this movement by simply showing up. I pray divine clarity over your life. I pray protection over your steps. I pray fire in your voice and strength in your silence. And above all, I pray that you never forget what you've just remembered, because the moment you do, the world shifts again. Now walk forward, chosen one, not in fear but in full power, because they tried to prepare for everything. Except for you. Let's keep going. Your destiny didn't start here, but it gets louder from here. Amen.